A very warm welcome to Sarah Bateman. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Let's start by talking a little bit about you.
My name is Sarah Bateman. I'm in grade 11 at WCI. So I am involved in the Wellness Committee and Social Justice Committee. So we help to run events like Orange Shirt Week, Anti-Bullying Week, and all of the events that run alongside making sure everyone feels included in their school environment.
Amazing. That's what I love to hear. I wanted to ask you, what are the things that drew you to run for the position of student trustee this year?
There were a few things. The main one I noticed within my friends, within the community of the school, mental health is such a big issue in high school and in elementary school. It's such a big deal, and I feel like we don't address it enough as we should. There's still this stigma going around about mental health, even though it's so common in students, and it's something that we need to address head on, educate people about, and provide resources. The other thing that I feel really passionate about is incorporating more Indigenous learning into our school. And I remember I was sitting in my Indigenous Studies class and I thought, how did I not learn this in like 5th grade history? This is stuff I should be learning. Like, why am I just learning this now? And that really sparked something inside of me, and that I want to help educate other people on this severity of the issue.
Right. I fully agree. And I think it's wonderful to see you looking at some really big problems like that. How do you think that these concerns could be addressed then?
So looking at the mental health aspects of things, there are a few things. I think we should be teaching students how to cope with mental health by having classes or workshops where professionals could talk to kids about how to cope with anxiety, stress, depression. I think this will have such a big impact on their school lives, personal lives, and whatever route kids decide to take, it's going to help them. Also, this is kind of a personal thing for me, but I've definitely had times at school where I've been having a panic attack or something, and I've been lucky enough to have a teacher I can go to, but I was very privileged with that, and I recognize that a lot of students don't have that safe place. So I kind of had this idea of a wellness center that students could design, and this could be whatever they feel they need for just a safe spot zone where they can go relax, few deep breaths, whatever they need, and they could design it. And it's just a safe spot for everyone. With the Indigenous learning, I think it's a big thing, and I'm white. I recognize I'm not the best person to come up with the ideas for that because I don't have the perspective other people do. But I think one of the biggest things when we look at the truth, the steps for truth and reconciliation, there's looking at the historical piece of it and also looking at the present day effects and incorporating more historical but also present Indigenous people who are writing amazing books. Why aren't we reading those? We have what is that thing you do in kindergarten? Home reading. Why don't we have more Indigenous books and home reading written by Indigenous authors? And then we read Shakespeare every year in high school. I think we can include more diversity into our literature. But when we look at it on historical aspects, everything we learn in Canadian history, we should look at it from 2 different perspectives. How did this affect the Western people? How did this affect the people living on the land?
Those are all such amazing ideas. That's great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And then I want to talk about Student Senate right now. And I note that you were not a student senator this year when you decided to run for student trustee. And of course, that's not a problem at all, but I want to use this to promote some awareness about the student senator as an advocacy position. So could you talk to me about what might have discouraged you from joining Student Senate this year?
Yeah, I think there are a few factors in it. One, I just wasn't fully aware about what the position was and what it entailed. I felt like I didn't hear a lot about it. It was just one day oh, we're apply for Student Senate. I was oh, sorry, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And another thing is I was really busy, and there's all that factors too, but I think the main thing for me was I just didn't fully know what it was.
Yeah, and that's totally valid. I know that's a concern amongst a lot of students. So to build off of that and ask, as a student advocate, what changes do you think it would take for the position of student senator to be more appealing to you?
I think it would be great if like past student senates could be like, hey, this is what this job entails, this is who you're going to be working with, and just overall promotion of it. Not promotion, I don't know if that's the right word, but just showing more what they're doing, how this affects other students, what they do to help. Because I think if I knew like what the actual role was, I'd be like, oh, this is definitely right in my zone of things I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I definitely get that. Yeah. Okay. And then student trustee election wise specifically, there's this common question of how to make elections more accessible, right? And since you are a candidate, that does speak for accessibility. But I want to ask, if you had a say in the process itself, what would you change for it not to be more accessible necessarily, but to be more representative?
So during the elections, like, so you'd go, you'd give your speech, and then the other student trustees from the school, they were the ones who voted. And they moved all the candidates into this little group where they talked and chatted about who was going to be student senate. And I think it's great that these people who are student senates are having a voice, but that's like 3% of the population of the student body. Like, what about the rest of them? I think everyone should get a say and who is representing our school board and who's representing us, because we're the students and it's the student senate's job to represent the students. So why shouldn't they have a say in who's elected?
Right. Oh, that's a really good point. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. And thank you so much for spending this time with me speaking today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to working with you throughout the rest of the year. And for everyone watching, now you know.